what brought me to this side of the world. I knew after taking about a 2-year sabbatical from my career in marketing, tech, economic development, merging those really high-performing industries, very just high stress environments. I took a 2-year sabbatical, and I knew that I wanted to get back to work at some point. I just knew I didn't want to do it the way that I had been doing it. I wanted to be on the continent of Africa, and I wanted to be in an international metropolitan city that gave me some of the comforts and familiarities that I knew from being, living in the US all my life. But I also wanted to be surrounded by culture in a country that fosters and still has a very, very strong amount of culture enriched into the daily practice. Hello, I'm Ashley. I have a channel here called Ashley in Africa. I share my experience of living and doing business on the continent. I currently live in Cape Town, South Africa, after being in Johannesburg, South Africa for about 2.5 years. My first impressions of South Africa when I first arrived was, wow, this is Africa. I had been in Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, for about 10 months at the time, and I took a holiday to Johannesburg, South Africa, which I love, and it reminded me so much of different major cities back in the US. But there was still this African experience that I was having with people speaking their language and the vernac and the music. And it felt immediately like home. Like as soon as I got to Johannesburg, I was like sold. And I got to experience Durban as well. I love the water. I love the coast, the greenery, it was just a beautiful country that I had experienced. I think at that time was maybe 3 weeks I was here, and I was blown away. I was blown away by the infrastructure. I was blown away by the warmness of the people. I was blown away by the real estate and the luxury that I was experiencing. I, am a lady of luxury in certain ways, and some things that don't feel like luxuries are to me, but I loved that South Africa offers all of it and more, and things that you couldn't even imagine that you needed in your life. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful country. It is a beautiful country, and it's had my heart ever since. I left the US for many reasons. I was doing a lot of research when I was pregnant with my youngest daughter on maternal rights, maternal health care. And I learned then, this was back in maybe 2017, the disparities of being a pregnant woman, a pregnant Black woman in my country meant that you were 5 times more likely to die during childbirth. And it was one of the highest maternal mortality rates for any developing nation. So that was my initial alarm, was in 2017. I started seeking what life could look like abroad. But my experience was that, this is only for people that are in the military, are in government roles, or maybe they work for international corporation and they get moved abroad. I had no concept of it being something I could actually do. And Africa was honestly never on my radar. Consciously, subconsciously, I had a beautiful image of Cape Town, Camps Bay on my vision board that I had done maybe 10 years ago now. So subconsciously, Africa was always on my mind and in my soul, but I didn't know at the time. But when I did finally decide to leave the US, I was absolutely seeking reconnection with myself in an environment where I just felt safe. And when I made that decision within about 6 months, it was also during the time where the world had stopped, 2020, and people didn't know what life was going to look like after that experience. And so I felt like, why not now? If I don't do it now, when will I have the opportunity to do it? my girls were home from school, work, I had been laid off, and, I had invested in some tools to be able to live abroad or to do whatever I needed to do. And I decided to explore. I decided to tap into the desires that I had, the values that I had pushed away, to do all of the right things, check all of the right boxes. And I was running from the chaos that I had created. But really, I was subconsciously seeking out a better connection with the creator and also myself. And I got way more than I ever bargained for in making that decision. So my monthly expenses here in Cape Town, South Africa are moderately low, depending on who you're comparing it to. Comparing it to the US, I spend about 40% less than I would spend for a comparable lifestyle in the US. Rents have gone up in Cape Town 30% since last year. So my most expensive expense is housing, which my rent is 32,000 Rand for a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom home in the upper suburbs, northern suburbs of Cape Town, South Africa. The next expense for food, I budget about 6,000 Rand per month. Most of my groceries I deliver. So half of them come from a local grocery store. The other half come from a local farmers co-op where I'm able to receive fresh vegetables and fruits that are in season every 5 to 7 days. Depending on the season and my travel schedule. So about 6,000 Rand per month for food. Transportation, I budget about 6,000 Rand per month as well. Most of my travel is with, coming to our office here in the VA waterfront, or heading out with friends at night. I walk a lot in my neighborhood to nearby restaurants and even my gym. So my travel expenses are pretty low. However, I always bank 6,000 Rand per month. For childcare, my daughter my youngest daughter is homeschooled. My oldest daughter is in boarding school. So collectively for education for them, it is about 20,000 Rand per month. And then with actually maybe about 23,000 Rand because my youngest is also enrolled in some performing arts programs that are about 3,000 Rand per month, where she every day is doing gymnastics, ballet, piano, drama, or vocal lessons Monday through Friday. So for education and, extracurricular, that's about 23,000 Rand per month. For a house support team, full-time house helper, we have a live-in house helper, house manager who does everything from grocery planning to meal prep, as well as cleaning and linen and laundry. Her fees are about 6,000 Rand per month. She's live-in, so I cover her expenses as well as her food, her board, and budget for kind of 2 to 3 times her salary for the month of December. So for my South Africans and even abroad, you also know December is a bigger expense because of the bonuses that you're paying out, especially if you have a team. The next expense, entertainment. So I budget about 10,000 Rand per month for entertainment and self-care. So that's hands, that's facials, that's nails, hair, massages, spa, going to things like that, about 10,000 Rand, as well as going out for dinners and things with friends. And then healthcare. So I currently still have my US healthcare, but for most things, I pay out of pocket because I would need to be reimbursed anyway. It's an international plan, but everything is so much more affordable that the time and energy of reimbursement just isn't really necessary. I do that at the end, typically at the end of the year. So I don't have a lot of health issues. So I don't spend a lot on healthcare, but I will kind of put in my fitness in there because that is preventative care. And that's anywhere from about 4,000 to 5,000 Rand per month at a gym and working with a fitness trainer. And I think that's about it. Oh no, utilities. So everything from electricity to house management with the pool and Wi-Fi. That's about another 3,000 to 3,000 to 5,000 Rand per month. Ooh, the strawberries are on sale. 7 Rand off. It doesn't say how much they are. $62.99. Woolies is quite expensive, but they have some of the best produce. So chicken wings. My daughter loves wings and legs. We'll do, this is for 220 Rand, $12. And lamb, this isn't something we eat a lot of. Lamb chops is something we eat a lot of in the States, but it's our lamb chops bulk. This is also 239 Rand, which is $13. This one is $20 Rand, $19.99, $1. Some lettuce, 26 Rand. Actually, I'm gonna get this iceberg. 22 Rand's like $1.15. And then a couple of cucumbers. These are 20 Rand, so also $1 each. So we just finished our shopping at Woolworths. For this full bag, we got a lot of produce, fresh produce. So you can see the receipt here. Everything came up to about 1,057 Rand. That's a little over $60. Or actually not even. It's almost $60, about $57.75. This would easily cost about 120 bucks in a similar grocery store, maybe like a Whole Foods is more of the style of shopping that you're getting when you go to Woolies. So I usually order my groceries, but if I'm out and I'm close to a Woolies and I need some produce, I always pick Woolies for produce. Every day is very different, but I'd say typical day, waking up pretty slowly, around 7 a.m. And getting ready for the day. So we typically check emails and WhatsApps in the morning. I'm not great yet with like putting my phone away early in the morning, but what I love about being in Cape Town, I walk through the neighborhood. So I live really close to the ocean in the northern suburb of Cape Town, and walks for about 30 minutes is really nice. I can even walk to a nearby coffee shop and come back home, have breakfast with my daughter before her homeschool lesson. She does some homeschooling from about 9 a.m. to 12. We now have a team of people that support her with that. And so I'm on my laptop, either working from the living room or working from my room or coming into the office. It just depends on how my week looks. I'm also finding time to research and create content, as well as emails to our email community. So we have a day where we're specifically doing that. I connect with my team abroad. So I have a teammate in Nigeria and a teammate in Tanzania, Lagos, and Dar es Salaam. We collectively work on the Ashley in Africa platform, the media brand, as well as Africa Investors Academy. And my days are very different. Some days I work 7, 8, 10 hours. Some days I work 2 hours. It just really, really depends. But I have been intentional about making sure that my Mondays are slow. I remember waking up in the mornings on Monday back at my old life, being really stressed about what Monday could look like. And I made a decision and a choice that my Mondays were going to be for me, and I would do whatever I want. So some Mondays I do work and I will have a really intense work day. But other Mondays, like we got to capture, I am moving slowly throughout my day, getting manicures, getting my hair done, having lunch by myself at a restaurant or going to the movies. Just really depends on what I'm feeling. But I have that location kind of time freedom where I'm able to determine what that looks like throughout the day. Almost 6 years ago now, 2019, I was working at a desk probably this size in an office for a tech startup with a bunch of guys. There probably was no windows in that little office space. We were a lean tech startup, but everybody in there was making 6 figures or more. The founders were at 7. I couldn't imagine what that's like now, having experienced the level of location freedom that I built with the business, being able to work from anywhere, whether it's a coffee shop, a beach, a hotel, my kitchen table, my daughter's gymnastics class. Being able to pop open my laptop when I need it. Sometimes not even my laptop. All I need is my phone to be able to talk to clients from anywhere, all over the world, whether it's about relocating, purchasing real estate, setting up their banking in a foreign country. These are some of the things that I get to do based on a time schedule that I create. Mondays are my light days. I typically don't do a lot of work on Mondays, but when we have work, we pop it open. And when we don't, we figure out how to be more creative with the time that we have to help more people along the way. People ask me if Penelope is happier. How have my children adjusted? Penelope was 2 when we migrated from the US to East Africa. So this is really all she knows. Being able to walk outside, being able to play outside, not being fearful. She's never done a active shooter drill. That's just not her experience, her reality. She's learning multiple languages. So being around people that speak multiple languages is very common for her. And she gets to be in her fullness. She gets to take up space. I don't have to talk to her about, going smaller, being smaller. She loves to sing, so she'll sing anywhere, even when we're on a plane and everybody is quiet. She'll sing. But we don't have the experience of where maybe kids are seen as disturbances or nuisances in my home country. People value children, so they allow her to be a child. I've been in meetings with her, with ministers, where she's talking and she's playing, and they're happy with that. So she's just a lot more free in her environment to be herself and to not have to live and have the conversations of what she can't do because of her skin color or her racial identity. She's just Penelope. The timing was just divine for me at the time. With the chaos that was happening during the time of 2020, the political tension, the uncertainty of what the pandemic gave to everyone. Everyone was really unclear. There was a stillness that I was able to sit in, and I was able to really evaluate my life. And I learned in those moments that I was not living a life aligned with my values. I couldn't say I value family, but I'm spending, 5 hours a week with my family. I couldn't say that I valued my health, but I'm eating tons of food from Costco every day. I couldn't say that I valued adventure and I'm heading to a resort maybe once a year. I really needed to check in with those values and realign if I was living that life. And so that was really the decision. These outside factors were really just noise. If I look at it now, hindsight, it was my inner self being exhausted from what I had decided to do for 20, 30 years up until that point, and what I had just accepted for my life. And it was really that divine timing in that moment where I realized, no, you're settling for this. And whatever you're not changing, you're choosing. And so that's when I decided to make a change. No place is perfect, but there's so many things. I think it's knowing that I was able to manifest this experience, not just in the physical, but in the spiritual way of finding that sense of ease within myself, reconnecting with myself, that desire, and being able to do that here and look back and say like, wow, 10 years ago, this was really just a vision. I had no idea how it was going to come to pass. That's really like the subconscious thing that makes it so amazing. But just every day being in the present. I mean, this is such a beautiful city. It is breathtaking waking up every morning to see the beauty of such a place. It's amazing to know that I'm in Africa and I'm raising my family in environments where they are seen everywhere. They are able to be their full self. Are there differences and opportunities for growth? Absolutely. No place is perfect. It's just a beautiful place to have young children. There's so many things. I can't just pick one. The more you think you know, the less you know. So I'm a constant, like forever learner, forever student, always studying. And there's so much history in this country that you may not be able to read in a book. I love reading South African written novels and poetry because you get to hear a lot about the history in ways that aren't necessarily told or haven't been told in the mainstream media, or just even sitting in community with people and at functions, at braais, and learning about the different cultural groups and the ethnic groups and the history and their experience. It's the more you think you know, like the man who knows everything knows nothing. And so that's something I've learned about myself. It's just, what you thought you knew, you just didn't. And so being a constant learner, it's definitely changed me and made me appreciate that skill set and my adaptability and agency to be open and understanding. As a mother, it's also made me so much more proud of being a mother and enjoying motherhood. This experience of moving abroad really gave me that, because my experience in the US is motherhood is a liability. In the workplace, it's, you don't know if I was laid off after having my daughter, and they couldn't necessarily prove a reason. So I got an amazing settlement. But it still weighs on you as you move in through corporate. It weighed on me. And so I needed to still keep my professional accolades up. I needed to keep my public image up. And motherhood wasn't something I wanted in the forefront. Now I value motherhood. I value being a mother. I enjoy being a mother. I love spending time with my children. I love teaching them things. I love, talking to them and being emotionally safe spaces for them and showing them how to also have emotional safe spaces in their friendships and their relationships. So the entire experience of living in Africa and traveling many countries has taught me the value of family and motherhood and the importance of it. living in South Africa is more affordable in so many ways than living in the United States. Cost of living wise, it's absolutely going to cost 30 to 60% less than living in the US. But what is priceless is the peace, the safety that I feel in my nervous system, and the overall quality of life, having access to foods that I know are less processed, created, farmed, and manufactured here in South Africa. The ability to be in a community that still fosters family and community building is also priceless. So from a financial perspective, it's absolutely more affordable than living in the US. And from a spiritual, mental, and physical place, it is 1000% better for me and my family. The way that I earn my income now, I am a full-time entrepreneur. I run a few businesses here in South Africa as well as in Tanzania, and I am 100% an entrepreneur. So when I was living in the US, I was about 50% an entrepreneur. I was entrepreneurial when I was working for companies, and then I would dip out if I was laid off or decided I wanted to spend more time in my side hustle. Or do the side hustle for a year and then go back into corporate. So I was a 50% entrepreneur kind of when I felt like I needed the extra money running in equal spaces. Now I am full 100% entrepreneur, making money through a location independent business. So I'm invested in tourism in Tanzania. So we have annual events where we bring people into the country biannually in Tanzania. And then I have a media brand, Ashley in Africa, as well as a community of entrepreneurs and investors called the Africa Investors Academy. And then I'm also co-founder of Skyline Attorney Realtors, which is a firm of attorney real estate agents helping international investors efficiently through tax planning, estate planning, so that their investments here in South Africa work for them and the legacy that they're building for their family.
So my name is Yolanda Lebese Cousins, and I am a property legal expert. I am in partnership with Ashley Cleveland, my partner at Skyline Attorney Realtors. And what we simply do at Skyline Attorney Realtors is provide efficiencies for international clients looking to invest in real estate or business in South Africa. We provide these efficiencies in a form of helping them buy property with tax and estate planning integration, helping them set up their businesses into which their properties get to be transferred, and basically helping them invest so they can maximize their returns and also secure their real estate investments.
Hi, I am Mpoma Duadua. I am an attorney realtor at Skyline Attorney Realtors. I have met Ashley obviously through Skyline Attorney Realtors as a partner with Yolanda Lebese Cousins. So obviously the alignment is there. So knowing Yolanda Lebese Cousins, I know Ashley Cleveland as well. And really I've been transformed because I have become more than just an attorney, more than just a realtor. I have been transformed personally as well. And I think that is in our DNA, in the way that we deal and engage with clients. We love to have a personal touch. We love to go above and beyond, and we love to make sure that yes, we're there as attorney realtors, but also from a professional space and a personal space, however we can help our clients, we take that step.
I feel very free, very liberated. Freedom is one of those things that you don't really know what it is until you have it, until you experience it. And I think living and being raised in America, the land of the free, that is the slogan that we learned and pledged allegiance to. And I don't know about you, but after a while, I didn't feel free. Them bills every month never made me feel free. I knew no matter what, I had to go back and pay these bills. There was no freedom in that, being able to do whatever you want to do. That's how I define freedom. And that's what I've achieved here, living on the continent. I get to do what I want when I want. Now, it doesn't mean it's easy, and it doesn't mean that I always have that, but I know that I can work really hard and have those fruits harvested over time. And so the way that I work as an entrepreneur, I am somebody who can sprint really hard for a month or two, and then I get to take off a month or two. So that type of freedom is absolutely something that I've achieved here on the continent. And financially, it's been freeing to be able to do that and live in a way that I feel is very luxurious and very accommodating to my family structure, my values, and the type of life that I want to live. I want to live a life that I don't have to vacation from, and where I can do the things that bring me joy with the people that I love as often as I want to. And I get to do that here. Honestly, most of my community that I've built in South Africa has been through online relationships. Like, it's been through me sharing my experience on social media, and it's been through me connecting with the diaspora locally. So it's been like a mixed bag of both. But I'll say that my willingness to step outside of my comfort zone and share my experience of being in Africa, in several countries, and moving around the continent, traveling around the continent, and exposing some of my ignorance and exposing some of my challenges, invited in people that were really inspired and could relate to my experience of living in high performing cities and doing very high functional roles in corporate America. And the curiosity of like, why is she interested in leaving that behind to move to this country or that country in Africa? So most of my community that I've built here has been through me stepping outside of my comfort zone, not only to move to this continent, but to share my story online authentically. And I show up that way. I show up authentically in new relationships. And that is what has fortified the relationships that I currently have and am fostering here in South Africa. I feel amazingly welcomed by everyone that I come in contact with. South Africans are extremely friendly, kind people, and that's all that I've experienced. I have not experienced anything other than warm welcome. I'm sometimes challenged for my position and what I believe or, what I may speak on, but I often find that accountability and conflict in relationships is a beautiful way to deepen the relationship. And it's something that South Africans are not afraid to do. So it's been a beautiful experience where I've learned so much and have been able to build a really strong community of people. And one of the things that will allow you to be the most successful is community. So without community, you will not be successful anywhere, but especially when migrating and relocating yourself abroad to any country, especially on the continent, because Africans are all about relationships. They want to know who you are, what you stand for, and what you value before even building a relationship with you, building a friendship. And so even with my co-founder for Skyline Attorney Realtors, her and I, we met online. We met through social media. We connected and worked together, kind of small here and there. But it was really when we connected on our values and understood what was important to each other and family and our relationship with our creator and how we treat other people and how we value our life so that we're living choice-based lives. Those shared values is how we connected in business, right? And how the trust was built for us to actually go the next level to do business and to do something with a big vision that has never been done. It's really important to tap into like minds and then to maintain that relationship and to continue to foster it as it grows, as it stretches, as it is challenged, as it's disrupted, as all good relationships experience. There is no good relationship that exists that hasn't had conflict and hasn't had challenges. And the way that we've been able to move through different seasons in our own lives and still build something powerful has been a beautiful, beautiful journey. But it's based on the relationship that we built first that has really allowed us to go into this new relationship of doing business. Before I moved to the continent of Africa, before I moved to South Africa, I was living in Tanzania, and I was on a sabbatical in Tanzania for about 2 years. For people that don't know what a sabbatical is, it's basically a break from work. I started working at a very young age, interning and working for record labels and music radio stations. At the age of 14, I started working. So at the age of 35, I decided I want to take a sabbatical and not work for a year, which turned into 2 years. And so before that, I was working in a tech startup founded by some unicorn founders that had another tech startup that had reached $1 billion valuation. And at that tech startup, I was making, with like bonus, about $150K. I also had a company that I had invested in, which is a media brand that through partnerships and sales strategy that I was doing with that business, about another $30,000 to $60,000 per year, depending on how much I was in that part of the business. Before that, I was always in the, the low 100K space, working in economic development for the city of Atlanta, where I helped companies basically come to the city of Atlanta to invest and build companies like Amazon and Google and Facebook, Twitter. That was a department that I worked in the Chamber of Commerce. And then prior to that, brand marketing background, where I never really made a lot of money, but I had a great lifestyle because those expense accounts were very nice. When I was living in Tanzania, I was making no money. My first year in business, I made $6,000, but I don't know how I was able to pay my bills, but I did. And I felt so wealthy, spiritually wealthy, emotionally wealthy, full, satisfied, worthy, abundant, at peace, joyful, calm, safe, secure. Those things, all of those emotions make me feel a lot more wealthy than even when I was making my high 6-figure income and living in my, Brookhaven townhome, driving my Tesla, that there was still an emptiness. There was still a desire, something that was missing. And those were all my choices. Like, I made those choices. I had to identify and live in alignment with the values that I truly, truly valued, right? I get to spend time with my children because I value family. I am now spending 40 hours, more than that, 80 hours a week with my family versus 10 hours a week with my family now because I value family. I am now eating fruits and vegetables that are healthy because I value health. These type of choices to live in alignment with the things you value, it's reflected in my bank account and on my calendar. So I get to do the things that I value, which is a wealth that is priceless. Do I feel like I'm a different person since moving to South Africa? Absolutely. not just South Africa, but also Tanzania, just Africa, the continent of Africa, in so many ways, physically, spiritually, emotionally. I am a completely different person, and I'd say for the better. Even physically, I never wore my hair naturally curly in the US. I don't remember the last time I did. I think I have a photo maybe in my 20s, which is essentially 20 years ago, or maybe before then when I was a kid. But my natural curls, and not something that I'd ever really done in the US. And that's just the physical appearance. When I look back at photos of myself, I was smiling, but there was a sadness in my face. There was a lack of joy, a lack of peace. And you just don't know what that looks like until you experience it on this side of life. Emotionally, I am a lot more compassionate, empathetic, understanding. I now seek understanding versus being understood. There's so much to learn and unlearn in this journey. So going from being a know-it-all to really sitting and having confidence in my not knowing, but also my knowing is dope. I am so much more spiritually connected than I was living in the US, which is a very spiritless place, in my opinion. There's constant conflict and division and confusion that fuels the system that is America. And while, yeah, it's a great place to make money, spiritually, it's a place that is challenging to thrive in. It's a place of survival. And I am now thriving personally, spiritually, and mentally. There have been some challenges in a way that has forced me to grow, forced me to stretch beyond my comfort zone. And while I was always a pretty moderate risk taker, I think I've just learned to embrace risk and the unknown with a level of certainty that I didn't have. And that has come from the personal development that has been required for me in this season, not just because of the continent, but being in cultures and environments that challenge you to think beyond what you thought you knew or understand, and to question everything that you thought you once believed, requires a level of self-awareness that I just didn't have 5 years ago. So I am a completely different person than I was when I was living in the United States almost 5 years ago. It's very freeing. It's very liberating. I feel such a greater sense of safety and security here in South Africa with my children, being able to be and not minimize themselves. They are able to play outside. They are able to play in spaces and just be children. They're valued. My youngest daughter loves to sing and dance, and she will sing and dance everywhere, even on a plane where people are quiet, but people don't get upset. They allow her to be a child. I've been in meetings with ministers and had my daughter with me, and she was playing and singing, and they encouraged her joy. They encouraged her child expressions. And that's just not something that I was familiar with in the US. Children are seen more as a nuisance in America, more of people that need to be seen, not heard. And being able to create a safe emotional and physical space for them is something that I never felt like, I'm not saying never felt like I was able to do. It just wasn't a thing in the US. My youngest daughter has never participated in an active shooter drill. She doesn't have to worry about being in spaces and someone opening fire on a group of people just because they've had an emotional or mental breakdown. Raising children in South Africa is something where they get to see the juxtaposition of being in a Western space with Western amenities while also hearing and being in South African culture, a country so rich in its culture where people still are connected to their land, their spirituality, their language, their cultural practices. They get to see and experience both, while also growing and building empathy and compassion and just an intellectual awareness and agency that most children in America will never experience. Looking ahead, where do I see myself and my daughters in the next 5 years? So let's start with my oldest. Wow, she's 14, so she'll be 19. Oh my goodness. She will be 19, working in someone's kitchen. She wants to be a chef. Interning and learning how to run either her own restaurant or ghost kitchen. She will be speaking fluent Kiswahili, and likely French, living somewhere, hopefully, on the continent of Africa. She has freedom to live wherever. I really want her to be able to live wherever she desires and find peace and joy, whatever that looks like. So that is what I wish for her. My youngest daughter will be 11. So she will have starred in some online production, right? Play, series. She loves acting and dancing and performing. So she will be in her performance bag in 5 years, speaking Shona, Zulu, Xhosa, Swahili, and English. All right, she'll be speaking multiple languages and being in her fullness, being her full self and celebrated for her full self. Both of them will. And me, in 5 years, I will be continuing to live a life that I love. I don't necessarily, I consider myself retired because I left corporate and I'm never going back, but I love entrepreneurship. My mission is to impact the lives of 10 million Africans through entrepreneurship. So I will be going around the continent teaching entrepreneurship, whether that's in brand building, whether that's in Skillshare, whether that's in community building, like teaching entrepreneurship to young people, mothers, fathers, experts, highly educated talent that is maybe underemployed, teaching entrepreneurship all over the continent, working with international investors to also support the investment of creatives, founders, problem solvers here on the continent. And I'll be doing it all the time because I love doing it and living a very comfortable life as I do now. So I see myself just doing more of what I'm doing now in 5 years and having financial freedom by that time. I've definitely got time freedom, location freedom. Financial freedom is next. It's coming. And I'll have my properties in several African countries. I'll have multiple residencies, maybe even a diplomatic passport in a couple countries here on the continent. Yeah, and just inviting other people, continuing to invite other people to design the life that they desire and just not settle for the life that they've been given. What advice would I give to other single moms, solo moms, making the leap to migrate to Africa, South Africa, Tanzania, Ghana, Nigeria, Senegal, Kenya, Ethiopia, Egypt, anywhere. If you have children and you value them, truly, you value them, not just their education, not just their health, but their emotional stability, their mental stability, their understanding of legacy and family and community, you absolutely need to make the move to the continent. Our children deserve safety. They deserve peace. They deserve ease. They deserve to be in their fullness. Now, I'm not saying they come and live this soft life, but they come and are allowed to be children. None of us, if we grew up in the US, really had the ability to be children. Yes, our childhoods were a lot easier than maybe some of these children in our current, the ones that we're raising. But getting them outside, off the screens, around other cultures, around environments, in nature, connecting with nature on a daily basis, these things are priceless. And if you have children and you value them, you deeply desire something different than you can give them in the US, you absolutely want to consider migrating somewhere on the continent of Africa, even if it's not South Africa. They deserve that life that you also desire, and they deserve to see you living in your fullness. They deserve to see you loving on yourself so boldly that they're inspired by you. They're not just seeing you as the mom that sacrificed everything and was through the mud, and even in the mud made it out of, and didn't eat because they needed to eat. They deserve to see you abundant, because exactly the way you treat yourself is how they're going to treat themselves. And I have become a better mother being here on the continent of Africa, I've become a better woman, thus being able to become a better mother, thus now raising more whole children, not broken children, not damaged children. Yeah, they'll have their challenges and their own traumas, but they've gotten to experience something that puts them so far ahead of many children their age, because they've been able to learn compassion, empathy, agency, how to transform and how to integrate into different cultural norms, and how to be respectful of cultural differences. This is not something that they're learning or going to experience in the US, because the US isn't structured that way. So if you are a single mom, a solo mom, and you have children and you value them, my advice is to move. My advice is to relocate with them. My advice is to give yourself and your children a life that allows you to feel and experience the abundance that you were meant to experience while here on earth. If I could speak to my past self, just before the move to Africa, I would tell myself, you have no idea how much transformation and abundance you are about to embrace. There is nothing that I would have done differently. The leap, the urgency, the faith that I had then, I still have. I just wasn't prepared for the abundance and the growth that I was going to experience. And what we know about growth is it is not comfortable. But I've only gone up every single time I've taken that risk on myself or the thing that I believed in. And it was taking a risk on myself to make this move. And when you do that, you open yourself up for a transformation that is beyond anything you could ever prepare for. So I would have told myself that, but I probably wouldn't have listened, and I wouldn't have known what it meant. But to be prepared, or prepare myself for the abundance and the growth and the transformation that awaits you. And it's going to work out for your good in the end. It always works out for your highest good.